My dear people who like my channel, who watch it time after time and enjoying time together, study new things about psychology, let me introduce neuropsychologist of Seychelles, the only one, Sarentha Luther, who will tell us today about impact of alcohol on our brain. Honestly, I'm tired to tell about that. More than 15 years of experience in psychological profession, it's permanent lectures to people, to groups of people, to families, to in individual sessions, what exactly alcohol is doing with our nervous system. And now it's your turn, my dear colleague. So I will try to put questions very simple. And the first one, of course, elaborate, please. What exactly happens when alcohol is consumed? How exactly it is impacting on our brain?
Okay, morning everyone, or good afternoon whenever you're watching this. So I want to start with saying I want to start with talking about the brain itself. So the brain is like a very delicate organ. It's one of the most delicate organs you have in your body, and it has a very careful balance of chemicals called neurotransmitters. So um, these are little, you can say, information carriers that carries information from your brain to the rest of your body, so through your spinal cord, so your spine in the back, and then that spine stretches everything in your body, and then it tells your body things to do. So basically, moving my arms right now, that's my brain telling, it's already sending information before I did it, that hey, move your arm. So arm move. So it's not like we think of moving our arms. Our brains are actually telling our bodies what to do with most of the functions that we have. So these neurotransmitters are very, 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 very important, right? And alcohol intoxication, or drinking alcohol, even just a few, maybe 3 or 4 drinks, can disrupt this fine balance. So it disturbs your brain's equilibrium. So your brain has a state where it's equal, it's working, it's functioning normally, like everywhere else in your body. And when you drink, it just tips that off balance. Basically, everything just kind of goes off balance. And that's why when you...
So it's balancing, biochemical disbalance. Am I right?
It's yeah. That's the first thing it does to your brain. Alcohol just causes chemical imbalance in your brain. And that's not a good thing. So a lot of people would be like, okay, why then what's the problem? Like my brain is gonna be imbalanced for a little bit and then it's gonna be fine, right? Well, it depends. So it depends. It depends how much you drink, okay? So when you think about it for a minute. So when you drink, when you have alcohol, everybody experiences at some point when they're drunk. So you have difficulty walking, you have blurred vision, you have slurred speech and slowed reaction times and impaired memory. And these are not even things that happens to people who are already addicted to alcohol. This is anyone who drinks above a certain limit of alcohol, right? So this already is a sign that your brain is telling you that there's an imbalance. The chemicals have been tipped off. Like you can walk properly, you can think. One good example from a very like significant and clear effect of alcohol in your brain are memory lapses. So people who drink so much, yeah, that they drink so much that when the next day they're like, oh, I don't remember what happened yesterday, or oh, did I talk to this person? I don't remember.
But maybe it's a good thing. Who knows?
we
Maybe it's not bad. What do you think?
Sometimes it's not so bad, but it is bad because if that happens, then your brain basically is telling you something's wrong. You shouldn't have done that. So, and
So in
also
your opinion, memory is supposed to be functioning quite well all the time, or what do you mean? Disruption by alcohol impact is something really very bad. Really, it's a sign. Is it a sign of serious influence? or serious intoxication.
Yes, it's a sign of serious intoxication because, well, if you're having some sort of issues with your memory, that's a different thing. That's a brain, if you have a brain-related disorder or disease or illness that impacts your memory, that's different. And that's also your brain is not working healthy. But a healthy brain does not have memory lapses. So you can forget things, which is normal, but to forget a whole event, that's concerning. That should be
Interesting.
concerning.
Uh-huh.
So, and blackouts are the biggest ones that a lot, it's I've looked at the statistics actually in the world, and it's incredibly alarming to see how many college students, like university students, had blackouts in their whole 4 years of university or 3 years of university. And that's a bad sign because a blackout is basically your brain shutting off. You shut your brain off. That's how much you drank that your brain doesn't work anymore. All the functions, your ability to be awake, your ability to think, everything just is shut off. And that's a very significant sign that your brain has been very seriously impacted by what you just did. And a lot of people see that as a fun thing, but
your brain can still look nice and fresh, isn't it?
Yes.
Or it changes with time, the way how it looks like brain.
Yes. So the good thing about alcohol is that not the good thing about alcohol, but the good thing about not being addicted to alcohol is that your brain can repair itself over time. That's true. When you haven't got to that level of being addicted, then you still have time to save your brain from damage. But someone who is not a chronic alcoholic will not have that significant effects on the brain. Yes. But then now let's start
interesting
talking
how brain of an alcoholic looks like then.
Yes.
Is it a real difference?
There is, and I was gonna show you guys a little bit, but I want to talk about it first before I show you, so then you can actually understand what you're looking at. So the first thing that happens, the first significant thing, I was just talking about things that you saw on the outside, right? So the first significant thing that happens to your brain when you drink alcohol is white matter degradation. So white matter is basically, there are tissues in your brain that contains the nerve cells that I was talking about. So neurons are these little messengers that actually carries the neurotransmitters, that chemical in your body that tells your body to basically transport information. It tells your body what to do. So think about it for a minute. Just really think about the extent of it, right? Before I go any further. Your brain controls mostly everything in your body, and to move your leg, your brain sends information through these nerve cells responsible for telling your leg to move, right? So think about how this tissue that contains these nerve cells, when they're destroyed, what happens to your body? You move more slowly, your attention is slow, everything is just slow. And that's why you see that people who are addicted to alcohol, they tend to, they have this, even when they're not intoxicated, they have this slowness, like they move very slowly, and they react very slowly. Like me right now, I can just but they would take a lot of time because these neurons, a lot of them are dead. So carrying this information,
it's a symmetry of neurons actually in our brain.
Yes.
If we drink too much, am I right?
Yes.
It's like something creepy like that.
Yeah, it's quite creepy actually.
It is a absolutely legalized drug actually. Interesting.
Yes. Yeah, that's what's really interesting, even if it's very clear in research what are the very bad impacts on the brain. And one very interesting fact that I will say now, I was going to say it later, but I think now it's the best time to say it, is that alcohol is the only drug that actually can have irreversible effects on your brain. The biggest, not the only, but it's the biggest one. It's the top one that can have irreversible effects on your brain. Every
Wow.
drug has effects, but it's
That's
there is a point that you drink that you can't come back from that damage that you've done to your brain. So that's the sad thing about it.
sounds
And we're gonna
serious indeed. What about
yeah,
cigarettes? What about cigarettes then?
cigarettes actually they
Usual normal cigarettes, not marijuana.
yes, like I'm thinking not marijuana, just tobacco. But
You are laughing very interestingly now. I try to stop myself from very, how to say, specific jokes for this moment.
yeah.
Meanwhile, dear guys, please don't hesitate to share in comments your vision on the fact that alcohol has an irreversible impact on brain. What do you think about that? How often you are drinking, and have you noticed really any brain damage signs or any real seriously bad effect on your brain after hangover or during party time, festive seasons, or whatever else, when you really need to consume more and more often?
Yeah.
So, cigarettes.
Well, cigarettes actually affect your brain by also chemical imbalance. So it's all about chemicals when you think about it. The chemical in cigarettes, nicotine, it's called nicotine. It mimics the neurotransmitters, the ones I was talking about. It mimics them. So it pretends that it's them in your brain. And it's in the same shape as this neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. So acetylcholine is very important because it regulates your sleep. It regulates how your body responds to stress. So the fight and flight response. So basically, acetylcholine, when you're in a dangerous situation, kind of tells your body to, oh, okay. It stimulates the production of adrenaline and norepinephrine, and this gets you moving to like, oh, run away from danger. And then acetylcholine also is the you can say it's the regulator that tells your body to, okay, now we're away from danger, calm down. So it tells your heart to stop beating that fast because your heart is pumping more blood for you to run. So it tells your heart to slow down. It
It's a
stimulates
massive
that.
coordinator then in our body,
Yeah,
in our psyche.
very important. And it regulates so much. And especially the most interesting one is it regulates thermoregulation, which is how you keep your body cool when it's hot or when you keep your body hot when it's cold. So you will find that a lot of people who actually have been chronic smokers for a long time have difficulties. They get cold fast and they get hot really quickly. Like their body doesn't really have good thermal regulation where their bodies can really keep their bodies warm or cold. So nicotine also activates dopamine, which is the pleasure center of your brain. It's the happy hormone in your brain. And
Hormone of achievements, of feeling of being
yeah,
completed, achieved, and that specific satisfaction which we all enjoy, especially men.
yeah. So that's interesting. Maybe that's why the statistics show that men smoke more than women. Like there's more men smokers than women smokers.
I believe there is a correlation there. Yes.
So that's why actually that's so interesting because that's why cigarettes are so addictive.
What do you think about the fact that people actually widely know the negative, toxic impact of any substances on their brains, and still some of them are choosing only alcohol to consume. Some of them would prefer marijuana or weed which is, thanks God, not legalized in Seychelles yet. And what do you think about that? Those preferences, are they based on something?
I'm not sure. I think it's not. I think okay. When it comes to substances, any kind of substances, right? There's a lot of research and scientific evidence that has shown that addiction can be genetic, so it can be passed down from your parents. So there could be a
Predisposition.
Yes, there could be a predisposition, so you could be more likely to develop an addiction to a substance if your parents or your grandparents had an addiction to a substance. So
To
it's
this particular substance, you mean? Or generally,
no,
it doesn't matter?
generally. So it's coded in your genes that your brain is more susceptible to being addicted to certain substances. So that's why you find people who their parents were maybe alcohol addicts and then they start using drugs and then they find it difficult to get off, for example, marijuana or even heroin in Seychelles. And because not everyone's preferred drug of choice is alcohol or cigarettes, but there is a common link between all these substances and addiction. So that's I think that would be not really a preference of what type of drug or why people prefer to abuse one over the other, but I think it's just the predisposition of addiction itself. So the drug of choice is their own choice. Maybe they have access to alcohol more easily than marijuana, which is the case here, right? If they sold marijuana on the streets next to the shops, I am sure that more people would be smoking marijuana.
Yeah, yes, probably.
So it's availability, I think.
What do you think about alcohol consumption and smoking in children, which takes place in Seychelles nowadays more and more? I can see the tendency that some parents, they are so sure that alcohol and even weed is not that harmful, being absolutely, of course, non-educated, ignorant, they are giving their kids to try it.
Yes.
Have you met such cases when you were working in Abdar, by the way?
Yes, there's a lot of children who parents have given them. I find that parents are not that most parents are not exactly that happy with their kids smoking weed because there's this idea that weed is a gateway drug. I would disagree. I think other factors like trauma, social welfare issues, and these things are more gateway drugs than marijuana. But with alcohol, it's really shocking how parents think it's okay. They're like, yeah, I give them. This isn't our culture though in Seychelles. I give them a little sip
Do
of
you
wine.
think it's because alcohol is legalized drug?
Yes, I think that's
it's a propaganda. Seems like it decreases even people's aspiration to understand, to be educated more on what exactly is that impact of alcohol. Just because it's legalized, it's already seems to be okay or not that harmful.
Yes,
and because I think people always say, especially here in Seychelles, but you see, we cannot legalize weed for so many years. But alcohol is always legalized, so it seems that it's really, otherwise it would never be like that. And in most of countries too.
Yes, I think that's a very good point, and the biggest issue I think in the world is that it's legal.
For us, for scientists, this is the biggest issue for people who are really aware about that impact and not just believe in this or that, but studying and seeing, exploring things as they are and not being afraid of seeing the truth, the objective one. Okay.
So remember we were talking about the long-lasting effects of alcohol on the brain, and I think it's very important if we talk about irreversible effects that we talk about Wernicke's aphasia. So Wernicke's syndrome, sorry. Wernicke's-Korsakoff syndrome. This is a thing that I personally believe is what's linking a lot of the new upcoming dementia cases we're having in Seychelles.
Oh, really? Wow. Mm-hmm.
Because this the most severe damage to the brain it's caused by long-term effects of alcohol, and this Wernicke's Korsakoff amnesia is the biggest sign of the severe damage, very severe damage on the brain, and it's caused by a lack of thiamine, actually thiamine 1 B1. So it's vitamin B1, it's called thiamine. And you don't actually lose thiamine because you drink alcohol. You lose thiamine because you don't eat properly. And I find that a lot of people in Seychelles, a lot of alcoholics or people who are addicted to alcohol in Seychelles, you can see how they're actually really skinny. They don't have good hygiene, and this is a very big risk of like
So they drink and they don't eat properly.
yes. And it's really the worst effect of alcohol on the brain, because you have a poor diet. Some of them don't even eat for days, and I've seen like a lot of people who told me that their families are in ICU. Even when I worked at APDA, a lot of the clients who were addicted to alcohol were always ending up in ICU on the drip, because they've been like fainting from lack of eating. Their bodies are responding. And this Wernicke's-Korsakoff syndrome has two effects that are very, very significant. So there's one that's short term, which is Wernicke's encephalopathy, which is basically mental confusion, paralysis of nerves of the eyes. So they have trouble seeing. They develop.
It happens when they drink a lot during several days, or how do they achieve that?
This is in the case of people who are alcoholics, people who have been drinking consistently for long amounts of time, and studies have shown like that drinking for long amounts of time actually it enlarges the ventricles in your brain. So the ventricles are these like places, these holes in your brain that transfer cerebral spinal fluid, right? And this is like a milky kind of fluid that protects your brain. Think about a baby in the mother's belly, and then the sac, the fluid kind of protects the baby. So CSF protects your brain. So when you continuously use alcohol, even for 5 or 6 years, the ventricles starts getting bigger. They start enlarging, and in older adults, you will find that this happens normally because this is associated with old age. So what it's telling you is that alcohol ages your brain. Your brain becomes older. So a brain of a person who is an alcoholic at 50 is probably the same age as the brain of someone who is a normal, like non-alcoholic person at 75. So that's the biggest alarming one when it comes to alcoholism. And then there's the Korsakoff syndrome, and with that comes the Korsakoff psychosis. And you know what psychosis is, Marina. But it's the chronic one. That's the biggest one. And once a patient gets to Korsakoff psychosis, that's when irreversible damage happens.
Yes, the ultimate one. It's cherry on top, actually. Yes, just to elaborate it a little bit for our audience. And still they're drinking, because when it's already coming to a little bit too late, people are so addicted. The addiction itself, the psychological addiction, I believe, is the most serious trap, because without that, no one would deliberately go to those stages, right?
Yes.
And they stop eating properly, I believe, as I remember, on second or third stage of alcoholism, they stop eating properly just because all the metabolism in body is changed, and they do not notice that. Only people around can see that this person is no longer that one which I always knew and loved. And personality changes. This is also a very sad impact of alcoholism, right?
Yes.
Like it's literally a social death in a way. This person has died as that person. It's functioning as a body and whatever else, but it's no longer that wonderful, loving and beloved one, right?
Yes, and I think the personality changes also have to do with because alcoholism is it's highly related to all early onset of dementia, and personality changes is something associated with dementia, and also the problems remembering the past, remembering things that just happened. All these things are things that happens when people drink, just become addicted to alcohol for long amounts of time. So there's a serious, like, there's a clear link between dementia and alcoholism also, and Alzheimer's disease and alcoholism. Yeah.
Very interesting, huh?
I
Okay. What would you recommend them in children's upbringing? By the way, soon I'm starting the course together with a preschool, Montessori preschool, online courses for parents. And you are cordially welcome to participate with whatever topic you would like to, in order to increase awareness of Seychellois parents about alcohol impact and about specific tips and ways to prevent it with their kids. So maybe you would little bit elaborate now for people who watch this video, for Seychellois people. That's what I care about, because seems that entire world is much more aware about very basic things of impact of alcohol. But my local clients, Seychellois clients, they honestly, being in the 40s, 50s, they hear a lot of very simple basic facts about alcohol impact for the first time on our sessions. That's just killing, honestly.
Yeah.
So I believe we need to talk about that louder and more assertively in Seychelles here.
Yeah.
Making this information absolutely free of charge and available for people.
Yes,
So please,
I think
what would you say about prevention of alcohol addiction? Maybe what do you think about the idea to replace, to make a substitution, to substitute alcohol by healthy lifestyles or whatever else, simple things? What do you think about it?
if I can, I'll switch to Creole now.
Yes, please do. Thank you.
C'est moi, là, on peut guetter l'alcool et il y a quelque chose qui est social, so it's a social thing. So, mon quoi, si nous pour, sans, or you, like as you said, Marina, if we're gonna change it, if we're gonna substitute it, si nous pour sans ça, il peut probably pour quelque chose qui n'est pas facile, à cause il y a quelque chose qui est social, it's a social thing.
I'm not agree it's pas facile. I think it is facile. If it depends on motivation.
Possible. So, à cause moi dis pas pour facile because il donne nous qui depuis longtemps il a. So, il y a quelque chose qui depuis longtemps il a et nous peut wali, nous peut exposer lui, and la science montre qu'il y a quelque chose qui de temps en temps peut exposer ou développer bias, savez, ou développer oh, ça est normal, mon famille fait, mon monde fait. C'est le moment
tradition kind of
tradition, yeah.
Part of kitchen in the
yes. Et moi, pour ça, il faut consciemment ou même qui me mon cas sans ça qui me mon capable switch from l'alcool to something else. Pas dire couper l'alcool qui ou pas boire du tout, mais seulement quelquefois ou capable essayer pas small steps, ou capable commencer par mon pas pour boire plus qu'idée, mon pas pour boire qui toi à cause recommandation par WHO et toi ou bien 4 verres par équivalent des sopina bière ou bien des verres divins 3 verres divins. OK? So ou kapab koumans koum sa, ou pa bezwen ki ou pa pou boire di tout. And yon a di moun ki fè sa desisyon, ki sou pa boire di tout, and that's the best one.
The best decision ever, actually,
Honestly.
honestly.
Ou bien, ou ka koumans pa boire tout la journée. Comme si ou koumans pa, quelquefois, zis de l'occasion, quelquefois, Noël ou bien l'année, ou boire 2 verres, ou boire 3 verres, la bière, ça. Après, ou remplacer avec, sorry, pas tout le monde m'a dit ça, c'est remplacer avec juice, ou bien limonade, ou bien de l'eau, which are actually things that, limonade, non, c'est seulement juice avec de l'eau, quelque chose qui peut actually aider le corps. Et moi, pour dire, franchement, pour l'alcool, si vous pouvez quitter un healthy lifestyle, vous pouvez quitter un lifestyle où vous pouvez manger bien, vous pouvez faire l'exercice, ou les corps va pour demander l'alcool. À cause ou balance chimical est normal, ou chimical dans les corps peut balance normal, peut flow normalement. Mais si par exemple, on a plus risque pour vous tourner vers l'alcool, là, ou sortir fatigué, ou sortir stressé, ou sortir, et ça va quelque chose, il facilement qu'à résoudre by keeping yourself healthy. Et l'autre manière pour dire, à cause du monde là, il servi l'alcool pour dire l'exstress. L'autre manière pour dire l'exstress, c'est l'exercice, ou bien au calme, c'est, ou qu'à cause qu'il y a du monde qui ou sorti ou qu'à cause avec, c'est mon pour reach for that first drink. That's the thing qui trap du monde, qui, première quelque chose qu'ils ont fait, les autres sont très stressés, soit autres fumer, soit autres boire. And these are cyber coping mechanisms qui, at the end of the day, ils pas pour aider. So, the first thing I would say would be pa alcohol me no la casa. No sa money se selwa. No sa ta de choque no would l'alcool, would whiskey, would bombe safa, se pa tout ça ba tout ça là. The duty free, là nous travel, when nous met store là de cabinet code nous. This is a bad habit. This is not a good habit. Storing alcohol in your house it peut increase your chance pour continuer boire à cause ou là. Donc, premier quelque chose que vous capable faire, il pack un alcool dans la case. Par exemple, il reduce your chance of boire del côté. Après, faire si qui, ok, ou passe la boutique ou un quelque chose. Et bon, quelquefois, là, la boutique, si vous sentez qu'on a un problème avec l'alcool, ou bien on peut développer un problème avec l'alcool, on a accountability partner, et du monde, et famille, et d'allons, et aux enfants. Là, on dit, ok, mamie, ou bien daddy, aujourd'hui, pas envie de boire, ou bien, moi, d'allons, pas envie de boire, so, si on reach for sa bouteille,
Yes. On a communicative level.
Divers, si ça demande la même là-bas. That's actually a very even effective ça ou va comme si je peux que faut payer mon petit non actually vraiment effective hein pour dire chaque fois à la boutique.
Absolutely. In so many cases. But you need to be motivated. And what boosts your motivation? Well maintained education about the topic, about what you are doing. Okay, if you don't take seriously theoretical words of scientists, of neuropsychologists, psychologists, doctors, whoever else, then just compare your state tomorrow when you are having hangover after you were drinking alcohol, your state and decisions which you make out of that state, thoughts which you have out of from that state, everything, all the consequences, mood, physical state, energy level, stamina, personality, charisma, blossoming, whatever else. Everything is down. You are no longer that strong person, that blossoming and really happy one, which you would have been if you would not drink yesterday. Just very simple experiment, right? But people have tendency to do not think about that, because that pain, emotional frustration, which is there, that suffering, that inconvenience and uncomfortable states inside, within, they are not solved properly, right? And it's much easier just to lend your arm, to take a glass of something to drink, and for some time to feel that pain is relieved. I am more communicative. I feel more nice. such a big illusion to trap yourself with this peel of deception of the biggest fraud ever, which we are doing to ourselves. The biggest self-deception ever. Drinking and consuming any drugs, actually. Running out from this reality.
Yes.
And in Seychelles, we live in paradise. This is true. By so many ways, by so many aspects, I would assess it as real paradise. Kind people, wonderful culture, nature, climate, and everything is extremely friendly. Why don't we value that? Maybe we need to have another very bad experience always for us to compare what really matters, what we should really appreciate. But kids and teenagers, they don't know, right? That's why they are trying whatever just to fulfill their experience. And if they have even no clue, no basic information about really harmful things which lead to be addicted, to be trapped there, and it's so difficult to get out of there. That said, I believe in proper, healthy, wonderful propaganda, which is supposed to be on governmental level. And I believe soon when we will finally organize and establish the first mental health association of Seychelles, me and you, dear Sarentha, we will work on that actually. Thank you so much. Even though it's a sad conversation, but so needed. I believe it's always on time, always needed there. And welcome again to participate in our online conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I hope that if somebody, whoever's watching, somebody gets something beneficial for this and gets the message that we're trying to
Definitely.
say.
I believe
Yeah.
so. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.